You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to OklahomaHOF on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them. Do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. This episode is brought to you by the Oklahoma State Treasurer Unclaimed Property Division. Oklahoma has more than $1 billion of unclaimed property. Reclaim what's rightfully yours. Visit YourMoney.ok.gov and enter your name to find out if you have lost money from utility deposits, uncashed checks, life insurance policies, or more. If you've got a minute, search for free and visit YourMoney.ok.gov. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Return guest on the podcast and good mate of mine. We recorded back in May of 2020, May 18th, episode 163. Talked a little bit about lasers in that one, which we'll do a little bit today. But a lot has changed in the last 4 years, so it gives me great pleasure to invite return guest to the podcast, Mr. Hunter Owen.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me, mate. It's changed a lot around here since I was last year.
Yeah, a couple changes, cleaned up a little bit. Definitely been trying to move this thing forward and make it look a little more presentable, and growth.
Growth is a good thing, right? I mean, it looks legit. I know you've been trying to work on this for a while and you've always been busy and working in the background, but when people walk in here, they're like, oh, this is what he does now. Right? Probably when people met you before and come here, they're just like, oh, it's just a dude's place with a bunch of side-by-sides.
100%. Yeah, and we've been friends for years, so you've seen this place kind of evolve. But, we joke around, we call it the Laser Ranch, and obviously it was bought with laser money, but we like to use this property for what it is, and there's lots of different things I think we can do. And just here recently, we've been able to kind of stretch out. I got my office over here that I work for with the side-by-sides. I've got this right here for the lasers. And now I really feel like the fun's about to start because we each have our own space to work and feel comfortable. I feel less stressed, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to kind of just, I guess, catch up on the last 4 years of what you've been up to, and you've been up to a lot. A few big things have happened professionally and personally, so I'm excited to dive into all those things. But let's go back and start with kind of where the side-by-side stuff kind of came from, because I think before we talked about the laser on the laser episode, we talked about your love of lasers and how that started and your backstory and born and raised here and stuff like that, which I'll link that below for people to go listen to if they haven't listened to that, to hear your kind of origin story. But let's pick up from that moment in 2020. Obviously the world went nuts, and you were kind of forced to pivot because your laser business, nobody was going on tour anymore, no one was doing shows, and so you're trying to scramble to get all your lasers back to your home base. But at that point, I know you were planning a big trip around the country, and I think that's what kicked it all off, right?
So what was the month that we did our podcast?
May.
In May, okay. Yeah. Because, it was like every day, every week was chaos, different thing. Yeah. All right, so in May 2020, that was 6 months after my dad had passed away, so I was still kind of getting into that and figuring out life like that. The world was crazy May 2020. That was peak craziness. I think I do remember us doing it, obviously, but at that time, man, we didn't know what we were getting up against. But July 2020 is when we did the cross-country trip with side-by-sides. We are apparently some of the first people to drive side-by-sides in a loop around the United States. It was 31 days, 9,800 miles in something like 31 states, give or take. But I'll give you kind of the quick story. We here in Oklahoma, we are street legal with side-by-sides, which is a really cool privilege that we have. But in 2020, we were not. And so there are other states that are street legal, and through loopholes and gray areas, and you can argue on what's legal and what's not, but there are ways to tag your side-by-side. One of my good friends in Arizona, he is notorious for, one of my retired good friends in Arizona, he's notorious for taking these trips around the United States with his side-by-sides. Prior to the pandemic, we had been talking about wanting to go with him. I was wanting to go with this trip and, make it just a couple of weeks to a month maybe and see how far I could go and then just kind of jet back. But come mid-2020, it was chaos. There was nothing going on. You are correct. Lasers, that was, at that time, that was my main source of income. And so there were not concerts, there weren't events, anything that would use lasers, there wasn't anything going on like that. I'm smart, I think, with my money. I'm smart with my money, I think. And so I was still in a position, even though the pandemic was happening, that I was maybe going to go do this trip, and I'd set some funds aside for it. And that's what that was for. It was just for that. Also, in the middle of a pandemic, there's nothing else to do. And the only real concern was if the virus was going to kill people. But it's supposed to be a quick story. We did the trip. We drove to Arizona. I met with this guy. His name's Al. He's a freaking legend. He has 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks. He has the whole thing planned out, GPS. He literally is a tour guide for the wildest trip ever. Yeah. We brought extra parts, extra stuff. We left Arizona, drove towards Canada. We got near Canada. I broke a transmission. Transmissions are not easy to get in the middle of a pandemic, especially for a Can-Am off-road vehicle. So we were very lucky. We met some really cool people who happen to be firemen and sheriffs that live right on the border in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in Canada. It was literally right on the border. Really cool people. I believe everything happens for a reason. I do have a Christian faith. I'm not the best Christian boy, but I do have a Christian faith, and I believe everything happens for a reason. And there are plenty of things that have happened to me along the road that is just kind of great reminders. Just keep on chugging, there's good people out there. And so we met some good people. A guy donated a truck to me and a trailer. We drove 16 hours to get another transmission, installed that thing, kept on our journey, drove all through Amish country, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and we eventually connected onto what's called the Trans-American Trail. So anyway, so it shows how much I know. So we get on the Trans-American Trail. We do a lot of it. We got pulled over a few times. People are going crazy. There's major cities we're avoiding because of riots and, crazy stuff. A cool story about that trip, something I'll never forget. We're part of the trip. It was a hybrid trip. It was mostly the Trans-American Trail, at least the 2/3 of it. And so we get to, I think it's called Pickwick Lake in Tennessee, like Tennessee-Alabama border or something like that. So anyway, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. We've been traveling for 3 weeks. I blew 2 transmissions, by the way, numerous other parts. It's not good on those vehicles to do what we did. We're tired. We pull into a gas station, and it's obviously like a big, busy weekend. There's campers, people buying beer, people walking, coming, going, boats and stuff. We're near a lake. And this guy sees our rigs, and he's like, man, what you guys been up to? And we tell him. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, you guys need a place to camp? I'm like, yeah, we definitely need a place to camp or something, because all the campsites are sold out. We literally have been looking for miles. And so he says we can camp in his front yard, and he goes, Sam's my next door neighbor. He keeps saying Sam's my next door neighbor. We're like, I don't know who that is. So the next morning we wake up, and there is a sign in his next door neighbor's yard, and it says Trans-American Trail. And he's like, yeah, I told you, Sam, he created the trail. He's my neighbor. We meet a guy at the gas station who happens to be the next door neighbor of the creator. And I guess I knew we were in the area of where the guy lived. It wasn't our intention, but that is how that happened. So the guy took us to lunch the next day. We hung out, got to put our pin on his board, and he told us that we're the first side-by-sides that have done the majority of the trail. And we didn't do the whole trail, but a lot of it. So yeah, that was cool, fun. Learned a lot about life being out there doing that. Broke a lot of parts, spent a lot of money, saw a lot of cool stuff. I would definitely do it again if I could. Yeah, it was good times.
Sick. We could sit here for 10 hours and tell stories, and listen to you tell stories about that trip.
Yep.
and the people you run into and all the incredible things, and just the state of the world, the state of the country at that point, and the people you run into and all the stuff.
That's a whole mood, like a story of its own. I should probably do a podcast about that someday.
A series about it for sure. Just missed you. I was trying to get back here before you rolled in, but I think I showed up like 15 minutes late.
I do remember that.
Just to try and spray you with champagne as you cross the finish line.
Yep.
But I think from that moment, like that was like, I'm like Side by Side USA was kind of born, and like I need to pivot from doing shows. I need to figure out income. I'm good with my hands. I'm good with building stuff, particularly under pressure as well around the country with no parts or whatever it is. What was the vision back then? Do you ever think it was, what was like on the business plan? And you don't strike me as someone who's going to write a business plan down, but I know in your head you probably had a vague idea of where you want to take it.
100%, yeah. No, I mean, mostly as for so long, I have been doing lasers, and I have so much invested, whether that be the gear, time, just clientele. I have everything invested into my laser business. And so when reality really hit, 6, 7, 8 months into this pandemic, to where, I think we made like $30, $40 literally on paper. We sold a LaserWolf hoodie in 2020. It was rough, man. And so, I wasn't going to just sit here and just not make money. And one thing that I did see that was still active and not super restricted was outdoor stuff and off-roading. Off-road people, they weren't going to stop doing that. And so, we did the trip, got a little bit of notoriety or some publicity about it. I started turning my laser shop, pushed all the gear to the side, put it on racks, and we started working on rigs. I had already worked on friends' rigs, my own rigs, and as much as we off-road, stuff's always breaking. So you're right, just kind of like had the knowledge. I'm good with my hands, and I like to work. So we started working on rigs, friends' rigs, making it a little bit more legit. At that time, I was also working on that light that I sell. We have a product, or the website's called alienlasers.com, but the product is the Alien Laser Tractor Beam. It's a light pod that shoots a beam of light up into the air so that you can find your friends and just kind of like bring some attention to your buggy at night. I do believe it's a positive safety factor, especially at places like the dunes, where at night whips are not as effective. And so we have a lot of clients and a lot of people that really enjoy them. We also have dealers. And so, that product was started around then, 2019. And so we started investing time and money into off-road repairs, my product, tools. I got lifts. I brought all the special tools, became dealers for all these different people, and really just started building it. I think that Side by Side USA, it sounds kind of like a mouthful, especially when I try to give people my email, SXSUSA.com. They always mess it up. But I do feel like it's a great name because that's what we work on, is side-by-sides. I did drive around the United States. I love America. We work with a lot of American brands, and it's just kind of how it started. SXSUSA, I think it's a good brand. I think we make a good product, be that if we are working on it or the product that we sell. And so I really enjoy this stuff. I stand by it. We have techs now. I have 2 full-time technicians. Daniel has been here for, I'm going to say, almost 3 years. And then Brian has been here for over a year. He does our sales and works with our dealers for the pods. But at this point, we're really rocking and rolling. We're having a good time. And I think that the future for that is very positive, very excited. It's fun to have laser light shows on one side and then off-road performance and repairs on the other side, because they are different economies, different clients. It's a lot of fun just kind of stop and smell the roses sometimes, see where it came from and evolved into. Because you know me, man, I'm big risk, big reward, and I'm always down to try new things, be that if it's, you know, realistic and something that I feel it's worth my time, especially as I'm getting older.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's been great to watch too. And obviously I know you and I know how hard you work and, you know, all the things you're putting in, but you know, you've also got married and had a new baby boy in the last 4 years too, which we can dive into in a little bit. But before we dive into, you know, the personal success you've had on the side, you know, on your personal life, let's talk a little bit about kind of Side by Side USA as far as Oklahoma, and as far as I know, you love this state as much as you love this country, and just putting on events and hosting events and trying to bring people into the state as well, because I know that's a huge driver of some of the stuff that you've been put on. So I'd love to hear you talk about kind of Crossbar Ranch and all the things you have going on down there, as well as across the state too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always excited to talk about Oklahoma. You know, I love Oklahoma. This podcast This is Oklahoma. And that's something you and I connect in, you know, our love for this state. It's a unique place. I travel all over, and this is where I will always live. I love Oklahoma. I'll leave it at that. We work with a lot of off-road parks. Our main park that we work with that our events are at is Crossbar Ranch down in Davis, Oklahoma. It's right off exit 55 near the Delisi Rock Quarry. And Crossbar has been owned by the same guy for many, many years. Over the years, we've become such good friends. And he is, you know, he knows that I do laser shows, and he knows that I work other events. And so about 3 years ago, I came to him and had the idea of doing an off-road style of music festival where we'd bring out, you know, pretty wicked production, lasers, lights, but we'd put it on the drag strips and on our like bounty courses and stuff. And so I kind of combined 2 things that I like, that I love, which is off-roading and this laser light show artistic style of stuff, you know, lasers and lights. First one, I think we, you know, had a few hundred people, and now we're on our 5th event. And I mean, we'll have a few thousand, probably 4,000 or 5,000 people there. I know there's lots of events, lots of off-road events, lots of music festivals, but I do feel like ours still has that homegrown, not corporate sellout. You know, it's not bought out by sponsors. I mean, we're not out. It's not to make money. It's to grow it a little bit, but still have a good time. And really, our racers, we make them feel like rock stars, man. I mean, they're going down the drag strip, and we got lasers and flames and rappers and performers and DJs. I mean, we had some people from Discovery Channel's Mud Madness. Their crew came out. Whiskey Biz and Mike LaFour and his crew came out. Some of the Nitro Circus guys. Hubert the Redneck, which is someone I grew up watching on MTV with Travis Pastrana. And just, you know, these are guys that I grew up, they were kind of like my idols, and now we're booking them to come out to our event. So it's really cool. And I'm very thankful that they do come all the way out. You know, that's something else we can touch on is, you know, I love showing off our state. And so anytime anyone comes to our state, whether that be a performing artist that we've worked with, or a racer, or just a company that's coming in, or our manufacturer from China, you know, somebody coming in from wherever it is, I love to show them our state and show them a good time. You know, we have these different companies that work with our off-road events, and they love Oklahoma. Everyone that comes down here, they always love Oklahoma. Not a bad thing to say about it. And it's tough to say something bad about Arbuckle Mountains. They're very beautiful, especially after a good rain. Rivers are flowing, birds are chirping. Very beautiful place. we do those there at Crossbar. We also like to go to any cool off-road place, which I believe living here in Oklahoma, we have quite the diversity. You know, we can go rock crawling, trail crawling there in Davis, or you can head up to Little Sahara, which is one of the best sand dunes in the country. Just a cool town. It's really been built up lately. They have a new resort there. It's called the American Oasis Sand Off-Road Resort, or I don't think that's their name, but it's American Oasis. They've been hosting events. Usually, you know, with the dunes, you don't go to the dunes in the summer because it's too hot on the sand. But in the spring, fall, winter, it's the best time to go to the dunes. And during that time, they really host some great events that we get involved with, and just super cool. Being in Oklahoma, you do have your choices and options. And since we're street legal, sometimes we'll just get in our side-by-side and literally start here in Oklahoma, map it out. You have to stay on state highways. That's what the law says. But we'll map it out from here to Lake Broken Bow, or from here to Disney. We've rode from Oklahoma to Disney before and off-road all there south of the dam on Grand Lake, did the whole loop, ate some dinner, and got back super, super late, early in the morning. So it's just such a cool thing living here in Oklahoma, the freedoms that we have to be able to jump in a off-road machine, drive it wherever we want on certain roads. I don't know, take advantage of all the freedom that we have in this state. I really love it.
Tell me, I mean, it's a perfect match to your laser business side experience, matching with side-by-sides and having a good time. And I haven't been out to the events, but I've seen the production and the photos and everything. And like when you said the drivers feel like rock stars, you know, going down a dirt drag strip and, you know, flames and stuff and lasers going off, yeah, they're gonna feel right. And that's the last place they expected it to be too.
Totally.
Davis, Oklahoma.
Yeah, 100%. It's really unique. And you know me, I'm a people pleaser. I like to make people feel special. Mm-hmm. But if you're coming to my state and you got a clean slate on your opinion, I'm going to let you leave here thinking this place is the coolest place ever, because I think it is. The last few years, we've really been getting connected with all these different off-road parks and people that work within the off-road industry, you know, growing this brand. I think if you're in the off-road industry, you've heard of us at this point. We do sponsor racers, short course racers, drag racers, rock bounty racers, which some of you watching this probably don't know what that is, but you know, and also I'll tap into kind of like what a side-by-side is, because I'm sure some of you might not know, but we're talking about like Can-Ams and Polarises and all the way to your, you know, farm tractor style equipment, utility sides, but mostly just kind of the faster off-road machines that you buy at, you know, motorcycle dealerships, Ajax, Jones Off-Road, stuff like that. We work on them, repair them, maintain them, but we also specifically do race modifications and work with a couple of very top select companies putting on race parts and getting racers ready for races, whether that be sand drag racing. That is typically a 300-foot sand drag strip that is prepped, watered with a laser timing system. And at this point in time, it's very competitive. There are people all over the world that, you know, are working to beat numbers. It's usually in the 3 seconds. It's anything in the 3 seconds is pretty wicked fast. But yeah, there's different classes. There's different, just people take it so seriously. I have an outlaw car, what's called an outlaw car. I took a little different route with it. It's not super competitive with sand drag racing, but because of the way the turbo and the gearing is set up on it, it's very competitive with street drag racing, which is stupid because this literally they're off-road vehicles. But let me tell you, when I show up to Jared's King of the Open Road events with the only side-by-side there that's running 10-second quarter miles, people start to question, you know, why they just bought a $100,000 car, ZL1s, and, you know, crazy stuff. So it's unique, it's fun, it's dangerous. Jared's event was this last weekend. Now that I'm 3 weeks into being a father, I'm not going to be doing crazy drag racing, at least for a little while. I'm just kind of watching this industry grow, representing Oklahoma. We do our event twice a year, so it seems like we're always planning it. As soon as one's over, we're planning the next one. Our next one is in October, by the way, October 25th or 24th through the 27th at Crossbar Ranch. We call it the Fall Hootenanny, Spring Hoedown, Fall Hootenanny. Not a lot of information I can give out yet, just because it's really hard to get people locked down. Some people, I'm just like, man, I want to pay you money. Come here. And like, well, I don't know. So we'll see. Well, I'm going to have some cool names out there again. I always try to keep it fresh. But
with these events that you're doing, you know, your name is being established in the industry, and like you mentioned, there's not many people out there in the industry who don't know who you are. I hope that leads to you doing business with, you know, like you mentioned, Polaris and Can-Am and like the big name brands. Has that happened yet?
I could probably do a better job of reaching out to some of these bigger companies to stay on their radar, which now that we have this nice new office and I feel comfortable, I'm probably going to do more of that. We have been fortunate enough to work with some really cool brands, especially like Polaris. You mentioned Polaris. Last year, we got to do a laser show for Polaris. United States is so big. California, so big. They have such a vibe out there that I didn't even know about. Glamis sand dunes, which is just massive sand dunes. I honestly, I'm tainted now because now when I come back to our sand dunes, I'm like, these are sand box. This is not sand dune, this is sand box. But yeah, Glamis sand dunes, President's Day. They usually do this big event. It's called Camp Razor. Tons of vendors come out. Polaris comes out, showcases all their new stuff. And quite literally, there are hundreds of thousands of people, and the dunes there are so big. I mean, it's hard to even fathom. It's so big and so long and stretched out that people will pull their RVs, their toy haulers, their trailers right there on the dunes. Whereas Little Sahara, you know, it's a park, so it's not as big. You have to stay there in the campgrounds, and then you go through a gate onto the dunes. There, it's like Mad Max, bro. There's no streets, there's no lines. People just get out into the dunes and they camp. We did a laser show out there. It was very difficult to get approved because it's next to, I forget which Air Force base, and they don't like laser beams, apparently. We did a FAA request. They denied it. We worked with the BLM, which is Bureau of Land Management, and they got us in touch with the Air Force base. We showed them some numbers. They liked those numbers. Made some laser data go down, and so yeah, we were able to do a laser show on Glamis, which was probably the first big laser show that's ever gone down there, which is pretty cool. One of the cooler things is you know, California's a drive, man, and on the whole way out there, we took I-40, you know, all the way. We got our trailer. A couple funny stories from that trip. Podcasts are supposed to be fun, so we'll say some fun things.
Let's see what you got.
So we get all the way out there for Polaris, and I'm a Can-Am guy. Like, there are some cool Polarises. I'm not the dude, Chevy, Ford, you know, I don't give a crap. There's all sorts of really cool vehicles. I personally am a Can-Am guy. And so I don't own a Polaris, but I was about to do this, you know, cool gig for Polaris. I'm not about to drive 28, 30 hours all the way to the biggest sand dunes in the world and not bring a side-by-side. First thing I did strategically is I loaded my Can-Am into the trailer, covered it up, and then I loaded my gear in because I knew that when we were going to get there, it's shake and bake. I didn't have time to swap things around. And so we get there, and I just offload my gear right there in front of the stage. I mean, Polaris executives and people that hire me, I mean, everyone has a Polaris shirt on. They don't think they want me with a Can-Am behind enemy lines, dude. I mean, like, if they'd have even known. Sorry. We unload the gear. I get the trailer. We go back to our campsite. We did an epic laser show. It was super fun. But then the next 2 days, I stayed there in Glamis and ripped the dunes with Blake Wilkie. He's super legend in the off-road world. Just Google him, and you'll see some really cool videos. But he's a San Diego, SoCal guy. Grew up in the Glamis sand dunes. Yeah, we rode around with Blake Wilkie for 2 days in the sand dunes with Cletus McFarlane and all these like huge YouTubers. I mean, just like mega YouTubers. It was just a really, really good time.
Obviously, collaborating with Polaris is huge, and I know, like you mentioned, you're a huge lover of Oklahoma, and I know you've worked a lot in the state. You have your events in the state. Have you done any other stuff that's collaborated outside of just events for yourself, but outside, you know, collaborating on events for others?
No, that's actually a good question because we have one, I think it's next weekend. Let me look at this. The weekend after next. So in 2 weeks, Jared he has Cruise in Oklahoma. Super cool event, by the way. This podcast, this is Oklahoma. So obviously we're talking about Oklahoma stuff. I don't want to just talk about me. But yeah, Jared, his event's super cool, man. The Cruise in Oklahoma deal, he does it every month. They might have started doing it every other month now. I know it's a lot of work for him. Even if it is every month, shout out to him. They meet up every month in a parking lot, and then they drive in an air. I think it's like 200 or 300 miles. Sometimes it's less, but they drive all around Oklahoma and see really cool Oklahoma stuff. Each time they'll come to a small town, stimulate the economy. There's always cool history. We know Route 66 goes right through here, not to mention just weird towns that have movies filmed in them, or just, cool history. And so Jared does a really good job of leading a group of unique cars through the towns. He works with the police, he works with the mayors, he works with everybody to make sure they're all on board. And it's really a great representation of Oklahoma and a fun event. I try to go to as many as I can. I'm usually the only, sometimes there's other side-by-sides, but I'm usually the only 550 horsepower side-by-side at these events. Yeah. But so he's got the one coming up in 2 weeks in Perry. We'll do a laser show on the Perry Courthouse, sponsored by Seth Wadley.
Outside of like the side-by-side stuff, how's the laser business seems to have kicked off as well? You mentioned obviously you have your own light pod that you're selling, the tractor beam, but then, people are going to shows now, so I'm sure you're juggling both the, insane growth of the side-by-side side of things, but now also the laser side has kicked up. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Things are. We're halfway through 24 now, so a lot's changed since middle of 2020. Yeah, things picked back up. We've been working with clients like Co Wetzel for a long time, but we started getting new clients and got a call from the team at Janet Jackson. So we did a massive tour with her last year. Recently, I've been doing lasers pretty much full time since 2007, and I'm 38 years old. And so over the years, technology's changed quite a bit. Prices have changed quite a bit on gear. Lasers are so expensive and such a regulated thing that they're federally regulated to own them, ship them, possess them, all this stuff. And so with that, over the years, really invested most of the money I could save back into new gear and trying to stay relevant with top name brand gear. And we were able to secure this Janet Jackson tour because we have a crowd scanning variants. It allows us to use these special lasers that have, we'll call them special, but they're expensive lenses and filters inside of them. That make it safe to shoot into the crowd. And also at this time, I invested into a French brand called Minute Un. I'm probably saying it wrong. But they have a product called the IVL Photon. And there were a couple of people here in the U.S. that were wanting them, and a couple of people that had them, but not in big supplies. And so I bought a pretty good stock of the IVL Photon by Minute Un. And that's a very unique laser fixture that no one has really played with. And so, in my opinion, I have my laser bars, which we've talked about that before, but that's a product that I helped design. It's a laser light show bar that uses standard DMX lighting console data. And so it's pretty well implemented we've used it in a lot of commercial making and media days for sports teams and stuff like that. That product, plus our laser projectors, plus the audience scanning, and now the IVL Photon, to my knowledge, we have all forms of laser lighting devices that are relevant within, our world. And so we're ready to work with whoever and, be relevant. We're here in Oklahoma City. It's cheap. I got I-35, I-40. We're basically a logistics company because people need gear in certain ways at certain times. So I've got RL carriers. I'm not trying to name drop ship companies like that matters. Forklift certified, not. Yeah. But yeah, we've got all these different freight companies that we work with, and we are, in my opinion, really good at getting gear anywhere in a reasonable, if it's even possible, amount of time. Mm-hmm. And since we are here in Oklahoma, my pricing is I still come out, I'd say my margins are better than most places just because of the cost of living and,
It's a great place to be.
It's a great place to be. This is Oklahoma, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit ago that you like to take big swings, big risks, big risk, big reward. And that's kind of a way that, you have lived, you said earlier you're not smart. You are smart, just not in the general sense that most people would say smart, right? I'm not smart in that way.
You should talk to my fifth grade teacher about that.
Exactly. Right. as you tuck into some watermelon in front of the microphone.
Yeah, I'm eating watermelon right now. It's very good.
But what I'm saying is, like, you always have your sort of bases covered, but that allows you to go take big swings. So what the question I'm getting to, what big swings are you about to take that you can talk about, and where do you want to go, in the next 4 years that it takes us to probably record another episode?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's almost like you've done this before.
I know.
It's almost like you're on like 600 episodes or something
like that. Yeah,
something like that. It's crazy.
Is that good?
It's really good watermelon. Good Walmart watermelon, non-GMO. Yeah. Actually, I think that's from Whole Foods, so I feel.
Oh, it's definitely good.
Pinky up on that one, bro.
Yeah.
Get my money's worth.
That's because you just had a baby, and now everything's super important to what you put in your body.
Yeah, I know, for sure.
Puts in your body.
Yeah, for sure.
Life.
Definitely been paying more attention to that.
Yeah.
A lot less hot wings, kids. A lot less hot wings. So, big swings. Yeah, I am always thinking about the future. I am always thinking about, what is safe for me, and now that I have a family, and what's safe for my family. But, I'm very, very invested into the laser light show business over the last almost 15 plus whatever years. I've invested a lot back into the equipment, and especially the last couple of years. So we're ready to do anything, I think, on that scale. Now we got this new production studio over here too. We are able to demonstrate things. We had the Oklahoma City Thunder people in here last week, and I feel very proud having this legit setup now with all these different forms of lasers that I just talked about, and I can show them this is a laser bar, this is a laser projector, this is a crowd scanning laser, this is an IVL photon, and literally demo each one of these things. Something I've really wanted to do, and our first person to show it to was the Thunder people, so I was like, hell yeah.
That's cool.
However, our AC broke that day, and it was the hottest day of the year. So I've got 6 dudes over here just like, what are we doing? Hire us. Right now, I'm really thinking that the side-by-side industry is not going anywhere. I think that when people are hurt, it's a form of therapy, and I think a lot of people are getting into it right now and finding they're a whole new person. I have met a lot of older couples. I've met a lot of people that maybe they're outcasts, maybe don't have a lot of friends, but they have found their way with off-roading, really have. To me, I see that this off-road stuff is going to continue to grow. I think that there's more people finding it every day and not leaving because they enjoy it, and it's a community that's growing, especially living here in Oklahoma, having all these wonderful parks to do it at, and having a wonderful state government that allows us to do what we can do. Some of these places, dude, you got a ancient fish frog that lives under a protected permafrost, so you can't ride there because a fish frog, it's like crazy stuff. But here, obviously you got to protect the wildlife, but private property is private property. We've got all these state parks that is protected, and then there's private property that we get to go out and have fun on the weekends. And so, the future, I'm staying invested in this side-by-side stuff. I'm staying invested in the events side of it. I definitely want to continue to grow that and keep it fresh and show people a good time and not be a sellout. We've had tons of people reach out that want to be involved, and we are very selective about our vendors at the event. You can ask any of our vendors. They love it. They're busy as heck because we only allow 2 people that are selling off-road parts and working on off-road vehicles. We only allow 4 food trucks. We only have certain things so that there's just not too much competition. I want those vendors to come out there and really kill it, and they do, and they love that. And so I want to keep it like that, scale that, keep the vendors happy, keep the customers happy, but also just show people a good time. Each year we bring out different entertainment, we bring out different levels of production, switch our stage up. I think for this one coming up for Halloween, we're gonna make like a trippy haunted trail that's all Alice in Wonderland themed, and I'm gonna have all my lasers mapped out on different things down this trail that's all probably like a half mile long of Alice in Wonderland with lasers and stuff at night. And so side by sides can ride down this creek and kind of check that out. So it's gonna be fun, this one coming up. So that's kind of what I'm going to be staying invested in, lasers and stuff like that, off-road vehicles. Another thing about the future, just the future is important. My wife and I bought a little ranch down the road. My wife sells beef sometimes. So if you ever want beef, Grazing Cattle Company. She's going to kill me for saying that because she's busy enough with it, but it's okay to grow.
I'll take a half cow.
Yeah, I got you a half cow. We got a half cow. So
eat more beef, people.
Eat more beef. Oklahoma farm-raised beef. It's really good stuff.
It's her brother's stuff, right? Yeah,
her brother. Yeah, Garrison. He has a ranch there in Goldsby and in Washington, Oklahoma. So we bought a ranch down the road. We actually have alfalfa growing right now. We're doing a share crop on the alfalfa. Alfalfa is such a expensive type of hay to sell, so we'll see how that goes. So we'll also hopefully maybe in like 5, 6, however many years down the road, maybe build a house out there. It's still here in Oklahoma City, just a couple miles down the road from the Laser Ranch. The goal is to expand this property and be able to use this property to my advantage and just kind of utilize all the area and the space that we have here. It's about 7 acres that we have that I own. We let people store their trailers and their RVs here. When we're working on vehicles, we have very good covered storage. You can see here, at the shop next door, people have $100,000 side-by-sides. They want them stored inside when we're working on them, and we do that.
As they should, right?
Yeah, as they should. Man, just customer appreciation, growth, making my employees feel good, just little things. I'm not the best boss. Definitely not the best boss in the world. But I try to make these guys feel important. They're just as much a part as my business as I am. They can take off whenever they need. Everyone here has kids. I just had a kid. Daniel just had a kid. Jaden, he's been working with us for about 6 months now. He's got a kid. Brian's wife's like 12 weeks out. So everyone here has got kids, about to have kids. So try to be reasonable, but try to get the job done too. But the world's getting kind of crazy, man. We won't get too.
It's getting crazy.
We won't get too deep into that.
Yeah,
everyone's got opinions, especially more and more each year. But
that's why it's nice to just get outside and get in the country and get away from people, right? Just like you said, people kind of rediscover themselves or find this part of themselves they didn't realize they had by jumping into side by side, and you don't have to spend an outrageous amount of money to get one.
Now they're cheaper than ever, man.
Yeah, and you can get a trailer and drive out to the state.
It is not a cheap sport to get into, but I can say that.
But if you're retired with disposable income.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, you just look at what people spend money on. I mean, I know guys that have $10,000 shoe collections. Cool, man. If that is your therapy, wear your shoes. I will buy fake Yeezys off of Alibaba, and then I will go off-roading in my side-by-side. And you'll never know the difference.
I'll never know the difference. But they're like, why is he wearing Yeezys covered in mud in the middle of Crossbar Ranch right now in Davis, Oklahoma?
Because America, baby. But that's freedom. Do what you want to do. I'm a huge fan of that. But I do feel like the way people invest moving forward with how crazy the world is. I mean, you saw the stocks today.
Yeah. Japan's
crashed. Ours are not looking spicy.
Yeah.
You really have to consider what you invest in the future because it's changing faster than ever. You can go to school, you can learn about business, and you can have some 70-year-old man in there talking to you about, this stock and this way that you invest and whatever. But the truth is, it's changing every day.
Yeah.
And the future is quite uncertain, and there's not a lot of people that really know what the hell they're talking about. So I just take my experiences over the last few years. Like I said, I'm not real smart, but I just take my experiences over the last few years, and I'm going to try to make always take big risks. I like that. I am a risk taker, but at the same time, try to be smart about this. I do have a couple things that I do know that I'm doing. We have a new light pod that's coming out. I'm waiting on certifications on that. The certification process is mind-boggling.
I'm sure
to get US FDA certified, CE certification, ROSE certification, just consumer electronic stuff so that you can sell on a big scale. Something I'm learning, but I have hired companies to do that for me, and they're very good at it. And so waiting on this new product to release. It'll release at Sandsport Super Show in September.
The event's coming October 24th, 27th. More information on that coming soon.
Yep.
Where can people go to find that information? And if someone's listening that thinks, I want a light pod or a tractor beam to go on the top of my side-by-side, or maybe some work to be done, where can they find you? Both that information.
We're easy to find. Very proud of what we do. So we're not hiding from anybody. It's kind of a mouthful. Side by side, if you want to find us on our website, it is SXSUSA.com.
I'll link it below.
Yeah, which stands for Side by Side USA.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy our products, or like the tractor beam, you can go to alienlasers.com. If you're interested in talking to us about laser light shows, you go to LaserWolf FX, which is the letter FX.com.
Yeah, I will link those below. For anyone listening that wants to go search and find some cool things on there. And you're about to invest a lot more in content. Where's that going? Facebook, YouTube?
Oh, thanks for asking, man. Yeah, that's one thing people always ask about. We make some videos, and I wish we did more, but I wasn't going to invest too much time into videoing and showing what we're doing around here until I was ready to show it off. And we're proud of what we got, and we have good stuff, but I really just wanted to make this place camera friendly. And so I'd say here in the next few weeks, we're really going to amp up our content. Said this a couple times, not very smart. I don't know how the internet works with these new TikToks. I don't have a TikTok. I do have an Instagram, do have a Facebook. I have a YouTube, which because I opened it back in like the early days of YouTube, I'm grandfathered into some pretty cool features, I think. Yeah. And so I'll probably change, or I might have to keep the name on, I don't know. But we'll probably start using that YouTube because it's less restricted. And I'd like to start putting out some cool videos about installing parts, some of these big builds that we do. I don't know, just...
Yeah, content.
Yeah.
Well, people can stay tuned for that coming. Keep an eye on your socials and keep an eye on that stuff, and then hopefully come out and you don't have to have a side by side to come to your event in October, right? You can come out and walk.
No, not at all. Oh, you could totally come out, and people do. Yeah. People come out with all forms of things: motorcycles, 4-wheelers, golf carts, horses, electric e-bikes. I mean, we have seen it all out there. It's awesome.
Sweet. Well, dude, thanks for having me. Proud of what you've done in the last 4 years. It's great to see, I walk in here today and I'm like, wow, this is, when we recorded, which was probably 10 feet from where we were recording now, the first time we were in a giant barn, and it looked like a giant barn with your boat and all your other stuff. And it looked like a man cave, right?
With literally insulation falling from the ceiling.
And now we're in like a legit office with lights and paint, and it looks, like I said, pretty legit. So
I appreciate that. It means a lot. It's been a process.
Yeah, you've come a long way. You're a dad. Congratulations again on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Beautiful baby Jack, and Mackenzie's done a wonderful job.
If I look tired, it's because I haven't slept in 3 weeks. Babies, man.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And it's great to see, you start your little life outside of work. Because I know the entire time I've known you, all you've done is work. So it's nice to see the other side of you. So
I appreciate that. Well, and people that know me, they're excited for me to have a kid, and they're excited to see what we do with this kid. We had a boy, Jack, and so I'd say, he's going to have a pretty interesting life.
Definitely. Well, mate, thanks for having me. Appreciate your time. For people listening, check out the links in the description for all of Hunter's stuff.
Thanks, man.
And,
I really appreciate having me.
Yeah, man. And it wouldn't, we have to shout out your wife because she's very good at the technical internet website side of things. So shout out Mackenzie
Owen
for doing all that awesome stuff, was making the websites look amazing.
Strong woman.
For people listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thanks.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. This episode is brought to you by the Oklahoma State Treasurer Unclaimed Property Division. Oklahoma has more than $1 billion of unclaimed property. Reclaim what's rightfully yours. Visit YourMoney.ok.gov and enter your name to find out if you have lost money from utility deposits, uncashed checks, life insurance policies, or more. If you've got a minute, search for free and visit YourMoney.ok.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.